Thank you very much, Benson, and thank you for Oikos and Heimdal for this very kind invitation. It's great to be here in beautiful Uppsala in Sweden. It's really a wonderful town. Yes, I will talk about the fine line Europe needs to walk in these troubled times, because I believe that we are at the most dangerous spot, actually even in a more dangerous spot than the Cuban Missile Crisis was in 1962, and I am not that optimistic for a swift and relatively less painful solution. But before I take on this issue, let me just reflect on a bit on Swedish and Finnish NATO membership, especially because there were fake news in such prestigious papers like the New York Times that Hungary does not support the membership of Sweden and NATO. It's completely fake. Hungary fully supports the membership of both countries, and we believe that they would add a lot to the alliance on the northern flank, and we have very close military relationship with Sweden. We are the happy customers of both the fighter plane Gripen and Carl Gustaf and many other weaponry coming from Sweden, and I have to tell you that they are excellent. And I am a happy owner of a Saab, not the Gripen, a 9.3, and for 12 years, and this is the best car I ever had. So, well, it's not easy for me to speak about the war in Ukraine for several reasons. First, because I was completely wrong about it. I never believed, maybe until the last few days when Russia recognized the two breakaway separatist republics, that this war will happen, because strategically it's so bad for Russia. For anyone who knows strategy, I think it's the worst decision a country made maybe since Germany attacked Russia or the Soviet Union in 1941. And it's also very hard for me because I know the region quite well. I traveled to these cities which are being destroyed today, from Mariupol to Sloviansk to Sviatohirsk to Odessa, basically to everywhere where the front is now in Ukraine. And I have friends there, and it's really tragic what's happening in Ukraine. The last time I have been to the theater of Mariupol, it was a place of happiness. People chatting in Russian, not a word in Ukrainian, but everybody was happy after a good show. And now this theater is the grave of hundreds in Mariupol. So it's a tragic situation. But it's also very hard for me to talk about Ukraine as a Hungarian, since it was already mentioned that Ukraine was not a perfect place before 2022 invasion and brutal aggression of Russia. We Hungarians knew it from first hand. I have to tell you that very negative things happened to the minorities, non-Ukrainian speakers to Ukraine. For example, the leader and a friend of mine, the leader of the democratically elected leader of the Hungarian community, was basically chased out of the country with a phony case of treason. And this phony case of treason was introduced over the previous president, Mr. Poroshenko, and the leader of the Russian community. So there was trouble in Ukraine, actually. We don't speak about a perfect democracy. Of course, nobody is perfect, but there were, when the opposition leaders are accused with treason, and the leader of minorities, that's not a good state of mind, and it happened in the last 2 years. But still, compared to this naked and blatant aggression of what Russia is doing, all these issues look small today, what happened in Ukraine before. This is unprecedented, what is happening. But because if it's unprecedented, we have to be really cautious about how we answer the Russian invasion. So it's not easy to create a good strategy to help Ukraine, because the line between helping Ukraine and between a greater war is not that wide. So how to stop Russia? That's my question in my speech. and how to punish Russia for its aggression without entering into a more dangerous war. And actually this more dangerous war would mean the complete destruction of Ukraine itself. That Ukraine would be the first victim of a wider war. And we have to understand for these two things. What is this war about? What is this war about for Russia? And what is this war about for Vladimir Putin? And I'm afraid this war is not only about geopolitics. I'm head of the Center for Geopolitics at MCC in Budapest, and I dealt with geopolitics and security policy for a quarter of a century. And actually, most of geopolitics is very rational. But this war, as I said at the beginning, is not rational in many ways for Russia, for Vladimir Putin and for the Russian elite. And that is the danger. Because this war is about nationalism and nationalist ideas much more than about NATO, than about EU, than about NATO being close to the Russian border. Actually, NATO is now close to the Russian border, since Narva in Estonia is very close to St. Petersburg. And there is one area of Russia, the Kaliningrad enclave, which is surrounded by NATO countries. So NATO is already close to Russia. That's not the issue here. The issue is how Russian nationalism sees Russia, how Vladimir Putin sees Russian future. And when it's about pride, when it's about national ideas, it's much harder to solve an issue when it's about rational issues. If it's about the mine or oil fields, gas fields, it's easy to solve, because if you invest a lot and you lose still, as Russia is investing a lot and not winning, I wouldn't say they are losing yet, because we are living in one information bubble, which is the Western information bubble, and there is different information too about how the war is going. The Ukrainian losses are very big, at least as big as the Russians. I'm not talking about equipment, but human losses are huge. So what is this war about? And why is it so dangerous? We don't know the state of mind, of course, of Vladimir Putin, but I advise everyone to read Mr. Solzhenitsyn's little booklet, How to Save Russia. And what Putin is doing is like from that book. If we saw what he did in Kazakhstan, how he talked about Kazakhstan. Northern Kazakhstan has a lot of ethnic Russians, and they see it as one of the injustices of the fall of the Soviet Union. But the bigger injustice was for Russians. And I'm not defending their position, you must understand. But we need to understand their mindset was the loss of Crimea, loss of Odessa, loss of the Donbass. So this is not only about, as people explain, it's not only about the gas fields of the Black Sea. It's not only about Sevastopol. It's not only about Donbass. It's about Russian idea, how Russia should look like. And then it's a problem, because it's very hard to change a mindset. So what we did until now as the West is doubling down to every Russian doubling down. So I don't know where is the end in doubling down, and that's a problem. So we have to calibrate what we do in an extremely cautious manner. And what we are doing in Hungary, we are trying to explain it to our allies, that even with sanctions, for example, there is a big issue about sanctions right now. If we hurt ourselves more than Russia, then we are actually helping Russia. And with oil and gas sanctions, that would be the case. But the good thing is that even if we hurt ourselves more, the Russians would only laugh at us. So that's not the danger. The danger is the military doubling down from the West. So we have to calibrate it very, very cautiously. And what I saw from American sources, we all knew that America is giving basically live information at every second to Ukraine. We knew it. We also knew that there are rooms in the Pentagon where they are, let's say, planning even tactical level operations for Ukraine. But it's dangerous to brag about this, and that's what many Americans did. So that is not wise, to tell the Russians that we are defeating you. And I believe that that what we need to do, and of course it's not going to be Sweden, Finland, Hungary, or the smaller NATO members, but it should be the United States to try to talk to Russia, to understand the limits of what a now humiliated Russia can still accept as a way out, as a bridge out, a return, a withdrawal from this. Because if we don't do this, I don't want to see Russia doubling down on this operation, because I personally believe that they are capable to do everything if they are in the corner. And Vladimir Putin, if you look at his mindset, he's a rational person, but he's a rational person in his own world, in the Russian world, and in his own elite. And he's not even the worst. And I totally agree with my fellow speaker that if you believe that Vladimir Putin is the worst Russia can be, maybe you should listen to Dmitry Rogozin. And maybe there would be a good idea to, of course, Zhirinovsky is safely under the ground, and he wasn't a serious player anyway. But there are other serious players in the Russian elite who are even tougher than Vladimir Putin on this, and they would go all the way. So we need to be very cautious. But I'm not going to solve this. I don't think that with the limited knowledge I have, or actually basically anybody has beyond Washington DC, beyond Moscow and Kiev about this war, we have very limited knowledge, very limited ideas what is really happening, especially the back channel talks. But definitely I would believe that it's very important to avoid fully demonizing Russia. What happened after Bucha, it's not going to help. And it's very important to think about, as I said before, to give a golden bridge for them. They are defeated in many ways, to withdraw. Because without that, I think escalation is, again, as I said, very much possible. And what we should do, and I have to finish, I see, we really need in Europe the warrior spirit back. So I am in Uppsala. We are in Uppsala. I think it's the place of Viking warrior spirit. We, of course, have the Hungarian warrior spirit from the old times. So actually, if you know history, for example, in Normandy, the Vikings attacked from the north. We attacked from the south at the time. But it was more than 1,000 years ago. So we need the warrior spirit back in Europe. We need to change our mindset. And unfortunately, the mindset here in this country and in many countries in Europe that we are living in a beautiful, new, brave world, and the biggest issue is how many new identities we can welcome in terms of sexuality or whatever. But the issue is now for us, not only because of Russia, but because of the collapsing South, how to survive the next 30 years. And the issue is to be strong enough. And the last word, if you look at how Ukraine is fighting, I cannot say one country in the European Union now, maybe not even Sweden or Finland, who would fight this way. Most of our young people would think about how to go away and not to go to the front line, right? The Ukrainians are going to fight. So we need to change the spirit. We need to have this steel back in our spine. We need to be hard to back the hearts of iron again, what we totally lost. Thank you very much. And I'm facing the debate on these issues now. Okay,